Jimmy, I was there with you guys in the Frozen Four last year, following you guys around, and could tell how special or tight knit that group. It probably still is, even the guys that are gone now. Just curious, that what was that flight home like for you in terms of you had a lot of guys you probably knew Brock was leaving. You might have had an idea guys might be like. What was the emotions of that flight home and conversations like with the guys of kind of both reliving kind of the run you guys have had as a group and what might come next?
Yeah, it was a tough flight. Obviously, obviously, guys were leaving. We were in Tampa, and Natty could have stayed there in Tampa. Obviously, they were playing. I think it was a couple days later with Toronto, but he came home with us and spent a day with us, and he decided to sign at the end of that day. But that last day with him and our team was pretty special because that flight home was quiet, but that next day we were all with each other, hanging out at the house and kind of just being with each other. So I'd say it was obviously a really tough flight, but to be with the guys the day after, and Fabe signed that morning, but he was on a flight that afternoon, and cool state, and obviously signed later in the next year. But to be with the younger guys and know that we all have a chance to come back for a second year and do this again is obviously really cool and shows how tight knit of a group we were last year and even are this year with all the new freshmen.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
That heard a lot about the hockey house, and you guys watched a lot of games there and NHL college. Just like, what was that day like? Or when you get back and all together, were you guys just like reminiscing? Were you guys, playing video games like you always did? Or like, what do you guys do to kind of decompress and maybe your last dance together, I guess?
Yeah. I would say guys were decompressing. Guys were just pretty sad, honestly, because, that was, one of the best teams all of us have played on. To just be with each other, though, I think was a really special moment. I think we were just kind of hanging out, playing bags, making burgers and brats like we normally do there. I think it obviously didn't change much as people. I think it's just the sadness that, brat was. It was all motivation, honestly, though. Like, you could tell the day after those guys wanted, to come back even more and win it this year.
And what's it like now going from a team last year where, expectations couldn't have been higher, right? Like, you were part of one of the best lines that I've seen in college hockey. Team was so highly touted. And now this year, still a top 10 team, but obviously the expectations aren't quite the same. But we're playing in Minnesota this year. Like, what is it like now with the team? Like, is it talked about a lot?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say a ton, but when it needs to be brought up, it does. I think our expectations were so high at the beginning of the year, and then we obviously come in first weekend and sweep St. Thomas, and we're ranked number 1 in the country. I'd say our egos were probably a little too high to start the year. Guys were coming back thinking we have the same team again, and then we get swept by Wisconsin, and we get pushed down in the rankings all year, and then Christmas kind of goes by, and we've came back to the second half as such a stronger team. I think our leadership roles and our leadership meetings have been so much stronger, and to a point where, we know that we can play against any team. And, we brought it these past few weekends. I think Friday against Notre Dame was our last little skid we've had. And I think that's the last time we're going to learn from these things. And I think, we're only up from here, and we have such a strong team and a strong group, and our defensive core has been great for us. I think our forwards, need to work a little bit better defensively on that side, but our offensive side has been huge. And then obviously Closer has been great in that all year. He's been a stud, but I think just that leadership part that we have this year is where I think we have more older guys and more leaders on our team.
You mentioned leadership. Now that you lose a guy like Faber and Lacombe and Johnson, a lot of, guys who've been there for a while, like anytime that happens, there's always maybe some younger guys or maybe surprising voices that kind of pop up that may not have had the opportunity before. Who are some guys who have kind of stepped in? I'm sure you have been one of those guys too, having your stature in the program there. Like, who have been guys that kind of stepped into some of those roles that were vacated by guys who left?
I'd say there's a lot of guys who have stepped in their roles. I think, I've obviously done a little bit of that, but there's been so much more from our younger guys. I think, John Middleset has been one of those guys who steps in. He doesn't play every game, but man, when he plays, he's going and he's buzzing. He's such a energizer bunny. That whole line of, Middleset, Clark, or Strobe, whoever's playing, they're 100% every single game, and their voices on our bench. And then obviously we have the old line of Nelson, Brodzinski, and Evers, and they've been voices their career here, and they're going to stick with that all year about honing us in on short shifts and And I think Oliver Moore, as being a freshman, most guys don't really have huge voices, but I mean, man, he's so determined and so motivated to be the best leader he can possibly be. And, he shows it every day.
Yeah, he also really spoke highly of what John Middlestad does. Like, he was kind of the under the radar guy for him. I am curious though, looking back to last year as well. Obviously, you've got a great relationship with Logan Cooley, and I'm sure it's a little bittersweet to, watch him leave and go start his pro career. But talk to us, like, what is that relationship like? And I got to put you on the spot. Like, what was your pitch to get him to flip his commitment and go to the Gophers?
Yeah, I think our relationship it's good. It stays the same. Obviously, we still communicate with each other, and we'll hang out this summer when he comes home. And it's really good to hear about him. And obviously, when he signed, I was no more than happy. I was super happy for him and his career ahead. And he's obviously been doing good, and he's been playing up to his almost standards. I think he makes plays so well and he does things so well. But when he first committed here and switched his commitment, I think it was kind of easier for him. I don't think he necessarily wanted to go to Notre Dame super badly. I think he was kind of deciding between here in North Dakota, and luckily he chose here. But I think just kind of to get him to come here, he knew that how many NHL players come out of this college, and how highly mature as people too. And obviously he sent that on to his younger cousin who plays at NTDP too. So it's nice to get that word down and keep bringing those good recruits in.
Jimmy, I noticed you have a legacy there, your family with the Gophers, your dad and your grandfather. Was there ever other schools that you even looked at? I don't know. I think your dad probably encouraged you to kind of at least see what was out there. Was there any other schools that were, I'm sure, after you there?
Yeah, I think my dad encouraged me to check everything out. He never really forced me to go to Minnesota. He didn't care much that I came here or not. He just kind of wanted me to do whatever. But I think I liked. I didn't go visit a lot of places. I liked Boston. I liked the idea of Boston and North Dakota and Minnesota, and then obviously Wisconsin and Granado's in there because he's such a good coach. But I think it just kind of came down to the practice habits that I would create here. Going against practice every day against Faber and Nyes and Lacombe and Johnson. I mean, I got so much better last year in just that aspect alone. And then, I was really fortunate enough to play with 2 NHL players. So I think it all just kind of came down to me being in the right spot at the right time. And it kind of worked out for me.
Plus, I think we heard that your grandpa told you wanted to go to Minnesota yesterday, right? He wanted you there, right? he had
a little different opinion on it. He wanted me to go to Minnesota so he could watch.
Just tell us a little about him and his influence on your life here. I mean, I saw him like skating at age 80 plus, or still doing some probably beer league skates there. Just what was it like kind of watching him growing up, and what kind of influence has he had on you as a player?
Yeah, I think a huge influence. I think growing up, me and my cousin used to go skate with him and his buddies, and when he was probably around 75, 80. But I think to just kind of skate with him and be on the ice with him and all his old buddies kind of really grew that love for the game for me, to know that you can do it at such a late age, and those guys would hang out and kind of be in that team atmosphere so late. So I think just kind of that part of hockey grew on me so quickly from a young age, because I would just go out there with those guys and kind of see what he had to do. And obviously he still comes to basically every game. He's sitting up there and I go see him after the game. And it's so cool to see that, he's still rolling along and loves to watch hockey. He doesn't care about the noise, even though he's, old and it's probably pretty loud for him, but he just kind of loves being in the atmosphere.
Does he have a more active celebration than your dad does during games? Is he a little louder? Or I know your dad's kind of like the nonchalant, like he just had a hat trick in 13 minutes. I'm going to sit on my hands here.
I don't know. Honestly, I've never really asked if he does anything. I highly doubt that he does anything, because he's, pretty laid back guy. So
everybody talks about your shot. Of course, it's your trademark. It's one of your biggest strengths. And I was curious how it developed, because I covered the Lightning for a long time in Tampa, and Steven Stamkos would always tell me that he didn't have a good shot when he was a young kid. He was small, the way he was built. He was a good skater, but he had to really go to shooting coach, a shooting academy every day, shooting 400 or 500 shots just to build that strength and that technique. How was yours developed at a young age? Like, how did you kind of refine that and build into what it is today?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just the repetitive, notions of shooting the puck. I think my dad kind of emphasized on me early as, aggressive shot always helps. I think, he obviously played at the highest levels. He played against guys who had good shots, and he would just kind of, I remember I got like a shooting tarp in my garage pretty young, and I would be in there a lot. And then I went on to my dad's school at Breakaway Academy. It's a hockey school out in, it was in Chaska at the time. And I remember, fifth through eighth grade, just kind of we got on the ice for an hour and a half every day, just before and after practice, trying to be the first one, last one off the ice, just ripping pucks whenever I could during the skate, just shooting. And I think that's where it kind of grew mostly, is just the repetitiveness of shooting. And over the summer, I was going in the shooting room at the Chaska Community Center and just kind of being in the shooting room whenever I could. I think during COVID was kind of a bigger impact too, because I got to shoot pucks in my garage a lot, and that's when it kind of grew for me mostly. But I think that's where it basically grew. I don't think there's a lot to it. I think it's just kind of being in that atmosphere of shooting.
Was there a moment where you realized this is different? Like not like a Fulton Reed, like shoot the puck through the net kind of thing, but like a moment where you in a youth game or something like that, where people notice like, hey, this is not just a usual regular shot.
Yeah, I think maybe my first year Bantams, I remember taking like a one-timer, and it was one of like the hardest shots I ever took, and it kind of just it went in and went bar down, and it's when I kind of realized like, man, I can kind of shoot the puck. I need to keep growing on this so I can use it in later games, so I can mature with this shot and keep using it. So I think that's kind of when I realized that I had a decent shot. I mean, I just decided to keep on working it from there. But
nice. And how does that shot translate into, as Oliver Moore says, you being a stick in golf? He kind of tagged you right away as being the best golfer on the team. Who would you actually tag besides yourself, though, as being the best golfer if you can't pick you?
Probably Mikey Kester.
Yeah.
We go nose and nose. I mean, every time we're on the golf course, it's such a close battle, and whenever we get really close match, it gets pretty heated really quickly. But I mean, he's good. He's a good golfer. I know he just got new irons too, so I'll see how those things work.
Nice.
Everyone talks about, obviously, from NICE, everybody says you have any NHL shot already, no matter if you're playing in college or not. And you saw these other guys go through it already, the experience. And they always say that, the only person that can know if you're ready is that individual player themselves. Just like, do you feel like you're ready to take the next step and, at some point here, summer, turn pro, whenever that is?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of living in the moment now, and I'm not super ready to make that decision yet. I think as a player, once that time comes, I'll be able to decide it on the spot. I think right now I still obviously I really don't know, and it's kind of weird to say, but I honestly have no idea. Like once that day comes where it comes to my mind, and my gut's telling me the right thing, what to do, then I'll go with that. But right now, I mean, I love being in college, and I love playing college hockey with all of my best friends. So
yeah, and
let's put it this way, like NICE said he came back for a reason. He came back because he wanted to be a little more mature. He wanted to do certain things. When you decided to come back, what were some things on your checklist? You said, hey, I want to do this. Other than, of course, winning a national championship was a big motivator, I'm sure. But what were the things you said, hey, this is something I want to work on in my game to kind of get myself ready?
Yeah, I think be a leader and be a more detailed player. And I think last year I was kind of got away from details quite a bit. I think it was kind of more producing focus, whereas I needed to mature as a person and realize that this is a team, and where we could possibly not be as good. So I need to mature as a player, and hopefully win a national championship with this team. So I think the leadership part has gone really well. Just kind of bringing in all the freshmen, and the details in my game have improved so much since last year. Just kind of the small little things, the small little aspects of my game.